Okay, let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Designer Founder podcast. Today, I have a really, really good guest and also a friend of mine, Anton Wade, who has gone through the journey of freelancing into working for agencies, working in-house for startups, and now he's got his finger in a couple of different pies, but he's all in on the whole entrepreneurial journey. So I brought him on to share a little bit about his journey from going from working for studios into freelancing, starting his own design studio, even working with a bit of Webflow development. So Anton, it'd be good if you could just share with us a little bit about your journey from going from getting that first full-time gig to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, Adi. It's a pleasure. Hopefully, I can share something interesting and can help some people. My journey started, um, yeah, in Newcastle, where I'm from, studying graphic design, visual design. I think an important piece to this journey, which is like a common theme, is I was kind of working already when I was at school. So I was working with my dad on building sites doing kitchen and bathroom tiles. So when I was like 15 and I was making like decent money for a 15-year-old anyways, I was like, yeah. Anyway, so I kind of had this crossroads of like, do I just carry on making money and I'm going to make even more money? So it's basically like choosing between money and what I was passionate about, which was art and design. And I had a friend that was a few years older. I was doing a graphic design core, like A levels. And yeah, he was designing record covers and things like that. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I had no idea if it was going to work or you could actually do that as a job, but I had that. It was like money or passion. So I chose passion. Like Grandad said at the time, I was asking him for advice. He was like, if you enjoy what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. And it's just stuck with me. So yeah, so importantly throughout my life that making those choices for your heart, not for your head. So when I was studying, that's when I started working on the side. So I would do freelance work then. So like 16 studying and I was doing like golf course posters. So it's like a golf course disco and I would do that for like 50 quid or whatever. And then actually it's funny. So I was learning the trade at college, but then I didn't see anything. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. I was just like, oh, I've got this funny idea. I started a few businesses while I was at college, as well as working as a kitchen porter. So in my spare time, I started a pet portrait business. And that basically was just like take a photo of somebody's dog or in some cases their horse, which I'll send it to you one day, but uh, like take a picture of the animal, in this case a horse, and then I'd like photo. So this is before AI, I'd like Photoshop it onto like an old French general's body, and then just use my Photoshop magic to make it not pixelated, make it fine for print, and then literally print it out in this huge print and frame it, and I sold it for like 500 quid to that lady. Anyways, so I was doing that, but to do that, I had to figure out how to build a website. I did the branding. I spoke to like the frame makers, and I was like, this is going to be my business. Like my whole life, I'm going to be this pet portrait guy. Anyway, so like lasted like 6 months or something, but that's something that's always been a common theme, and that for me, that's the most exciting thing about design is that that impact that you can have. Like you can have an idea and just run with it and use design as a tool to put that out in the world. You know what I mean? Whether it's a poster or a website, whatever. I had another idea at the time. This is all while I was at college as well. It was that I found like a drop shipping website that you could get custom watch designs done. So I did a bunch of watch face designs, but I did the branding. And now looking at it, it was like, wow, I did like a whole campaign and stuff because I just didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what my box was. So I was like, it was called Watch This Face, WTF, and had like, did like, like all the branding for it, all the Facebook banners, all of this. And, I ended up like selling like 3 watches to friends. But I just enjoy that process so much of like, oh, here's an opportunity. Maybe I could do something here. And then just having the skills or having just the stupidity or tenacity to just go and do it. without permission and just without knowing it's going to work, just because it's fun. And so, yes, that's carried on throughout my career. And so that's interesting now that, I kind of left that to the side, moved to London. When I was in London, worked at startup companies, which is kind of intense on its own. Like you can't really do much else outside of that. You know that score. Like you're like the only designer and you're designing newsletters and websites and marketing and just everything that they need. So it's just full on. You can't really have anything on the side. Worked at a few different startup companies and then worked at an advertising agency. And it was a very different deal. It was like much, much bigger clients. Like EE was one. This huge account. And I was like, right, what we're doing, what's the plan? Like, oh, we'll build the website this week. Da, da, da. And it was just so drawn out, long process. And like everyone's just fucking around, really, just like go to the pub on the client's money, like it's a 6-week project, but you're not really doing anything. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe we're getting paid for this. But in the end, I only lasted like 9 months because I was like I actually want to do stuff. You know what I mean? This is fine. We're having a laugh, but I actually want to do stuff. And then then after there, more serious jobs, startup companies, and then final job that I had was in London. Anyways, was a strategic design studio called Design It, and that's when I was like, oh, like I'm a bit of an amateur. If you know what I mean, I'm a bit like self-taught. I felt like. I'm surrounded by these amazing designers. Like, I've got business designers, service designers, UX designers. And I'd always just kind of taught myself and been like involved in web and building sites and all of this stuff. So that's when I really sort of sharpened my product design skills. But yeah, I've always had that itch. It sounds like you have that same itch, and maybe the listeners too, of wanting to do my own thing. I've thought about it a lot. I think it's to do with freedom. And like when you work for somebody else, there's a lot of frustrations. You're like, why are we doing it this way? Again, like, that advertising agency, I was like, damn, like we've got the budget here. There's 5 of us working on it. We could do something really cool. Like I ended up just doing it myself. I just like learned how to animate on the job. I was like, we could do this animation to introduce the studio and this type of thing. So anyway, I'm just like, I want to do things. I want to, be creative and push boundaries and things like that. And you can't always do that when you're working for somebody else. There's different incentives, different priorities. And yeah, then it's sort of to prove it to yourself that you can do it. Given full control, can you actually create something great? And it's a different challenge altogether when you actually have the freedom. And that's kind of what I'm in now. I've got all of the freedom, but you have other challenges, other limiting beliefs and other things that you have to get over once you do get that freedom. So yeah, that's kind of my entire backstory through design and entrepreneurship. But happy to delve into any part of it that you think's interesting.
The freedom thing is interesting because often you hear a lot of people that go through, the more you talk to people with a similar type of background. I started like print company, lemonade stand when I was 6, 8, whatever it is. And then you see what they're doing now, the more you connect the dots. And none of these people were like, I want to be a CEO, and or like, I want to start my own business, or they were just like, I want to do shit my way. And I think that's quite cool. And I think eventually, once you grow up, it's worth remembering that it really, you start to look at revenue and this and that, but it just boils down to one day being able to say no to someone because you just don't want to do it, and waiting for that project you actually want to do. And I think that boils down to what the whole business entrepreneurship is about, right? Because, at a small level, it's that. At a big level, you're looking at a huge company, but it's still similar. You do things your way. So I wanted to dwell a little bit into the journey from working. So I know that you used to also have a phase in your life before you started doing the kind of agency stuff you're doing now, where you were freelancing in Barcelona. Again, that's because me and Anton spoke about this previously, but it would be cool to know a little bit about, for a lot of designers, they're working in-house, maybe in-house, physically in a city. The idea of going away and freelancing and moving to a city like Barcelona sounds super scary and impossible. And I always say it's the best first step for people that want to taste a little bit of entrepreneurship, because all you're doing now is just doing what you do for one person, but you're pricing it and packaging it differently. So the model is very there's so many iterations you can go through. You don't have to think about an app funding, just go sell one project, go do it, sell the second, right? Do you think about this? How would you guide somebody that's working full time at a startup as a product designer and wants to go to a cool city and freelance and taste that life a little bit? How can you get started?
Yeah, well, I could share what I did, maybe break down the reasons why. Hopefully that's useful. So yes, I was living in London and I kind of had this, yeah, like I said, I always had that itch to do my own thing. I also just started to travel quite a bit because I, started to earn decent money in London. So I had a little bit extra, not much, but a little bit, like enough to go away. And yeah, I kept going back to Barcelona. I just loved it. I used to, before having kids, I used to skateboard quite a bit. It's got a really good skate culture there, good parks, good places just to hang out. So like you don't even spend, well, I didn't even spend a lot of money when I was there, just stay in a hostel, go skate all day, meet people along the way type thing. So yeah, so I kind of already sort of fall in love with Barcelona and thought, one day I could actually live here. But then, you've got I remember being there for 2 weeks and I just had this amazing, just absolutely free, bohemian, like absolutely perfect life for 2 weeks. And then the last few days, I had some interviews booked in because I was trying to leave the startup I was working in. Because I was the only designer. And I just remember like just sort of the dark clouds appearing and I was stressed and I just felt like a different person. I just felt like, and I was like, because I'd had that sort of freedom, I was more in tune with my feelings and stuff. And I was like, oh wow, like this is really, it's palpable, this stress and this like, I have to do this and I have to do that, especially that contrast between the couple of weeks I'd had. So I was like, wow, yeah, I really, really need to get out of that sort of dark cloud mentality. I was like, why am I even in London? I'm only in London I'm only working at this job in London so I can afford this really, really expensive room that I'm living in. It's somebody's house. You know what I mean? It was like 900 quid a month. It was a nice house, but it was like, I'm renting a room. So I'm like, I don't need like I've been living off like cans of beer and communal pasta this last 2 weeks. I'm like, I don't need a lot of money. So I was like, oh, interesting. So when I got back to London, I just I got a book about minimalism. I think it's called The Minimalists. And I just slowly started getting rid of all of my stuff because I went to Barcelona with a bag and I literally had too much stuff and it was just one bag. So I was like, I'm getting rid of all of my stuff. I'm selling everything I can and I'm just gonna try to just save up as much as I can possible. So I moved in with a girl I was seeing at the time as well. Just single bed, all of that. And then, yeah, just reduced all of my costs. So it's not just about earning more. I would say a really good thing to look at is reduce all of your costs to the absolute bare minimum. And then actually, so when I got to Barcelona, I had one client just before I left London. I managed to get a client when I first launched MakeDo. And that client that lasted me like 3 months. Just
So
that
that
one
that that
one.
was the launch of MakeDo in Barcelona when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were trying to get out of the startup job.
Yeah, so I sold all my stuff. And then, yeah, what could be interesting for people, how I got that first couple of clients. It was literally just, yeah, in my spare time, putting together my website, my portfolio, and then just telling people, just telling all my friends, telling people at work, like I'm planning on leaving. This is my studio. And just from those messages, I got the first couple of projects. They were decent paid as well, full blown brand identity, web design, web build projects. One for an animation studio, one for a venture studio and venture capital studio. And yeah, they were kind of done and lasted a little bit into while I was in Barcelona, but then there was no real urgency to get work again. It was just like, I've got like a nice fat bank balance now. I was sharing a flat with my girlfriend at the time, wife now. And so we just, yeah, we split the car. We didn't spend a lot of money out there, but we just had a much better quality of life. The weather's better. We go to the beach every day, nice food, nice people, and just, going on that adventure. But the biggest thing was just not it didn't have to cost a lot of money. Like Barcelona is actually not that much cheaper than London, but it's more like a mindset of just we don't need to spend money to have fun. We go chill at the beach and have a few beers and a samosa. That's kind of all you need. You spend what, €5? As opposed to in London, it's like you go out, you walk out your door, you've spent 50 quid just somehow, you get
Yeah,
one round at a pub and it's like, there you go, there's your full day's work gone. So yeah, that was sort of the transition. Then, yeah, the projects that came in after that, I didn't do any outreach in it, all just came through recommendations from those first two projects. I know that's not that helpful because everyone always just says word of mouth. But what I've learned since then is that you can do more to enhance the word of mouth. You know what I mean? You can actively put yourself out there, have conversations with people, go to events. There's a lot more strategies you can use and tactics you can put into place that.
share some
Yep.
strategies that have worked for you.
Yeah, I mean, just cold outreach has been a big one for me. And I learned this through when I set up the community I run, DesignCalendar, basically to spread the word. I built this just a website directory of events in London, build it in a weekend, and then the week after, same kind of thing actually is like leaving the studio. I haven't really grown that much since all of this, but just outreaching to people, connecting with people I'm already connected to on LinkedIn, sending them messages. Hey, I built this thing. Have a look. And so when I was doing the studio, I just did the same thing. 90% of the work that hasn't been referral. 90% has been just that. Has been outreach on LinkedIn. Not even any other apps. I haven't used Instagram or TikTok or whatever. Just LinkedIn, and that's generated 90% of my client work.
So just break.
That
I think it'd be interesting for you to break down what you actually do on LinkedIn, because for a lot of people, especially, I can remember when I first jumped on LinkedIn as a designer and thinking, what the hell do I even say here to get people's attention? And even people talk about DMing, and it feels really weird because, nobody likes to get DM, so you don't want to be that guy. There's a million different variables. So how do you, what's your process? How do you approach it? Say let's say, for example, you've had 1 month with no clients and
Mhm.
you've got to lock one in like in the next couple of weeks because you gotta pay the bills. How do you do it with LinkedIn?
Yeah. Well, if it was that urgent, I wouldn't start with LinkedIn. I would start with my existing network and past clients to see if they have any referrals because they already have the trust there. LinkedIn, you're going in cold, so it's just a numbers game. Whereas, yeah, if I absolutely needed to book a project in this month, I would go first to my own network, to my own friends, colleagues, ex-colleagues, past clients, and even which I've done recently is to help warm that along is to offer like a referral bonus. Like if somebody that you recommend signs up, you can have 10% of that project, and
I
then give them the range
I've
of what
used
that
this
could
too,
be.
and it
So
works. It works really well. I can attest for this 10% stuff. It works really, really well for
yeah,
this kind of business stuff.
100%. Because it's just you can ask people, but you're not going to be anywhere near the top of their priority list for the day. But if you say you reach out, and you've had a good relationship, and you say, but also there's 500 quid or 1,000 quid in it for you, that might bump you up their priority list for the day just to send a few messages. So that's where I would start if I absolutely need to get work. And then with LinkedIn, I guess there's like the very basic is just to have your profile in order. So when you do connect with somebody, if they go to their profile, they know what you do. They know where to go, like your website. Your website's there with your portfolio and stuff. You've got testimonials there. You've been endorsed for things. It's got your work history. You're a real person. You're not a scammer. So that's important to get in line first of all. And then, so I've got kind of two different ways that I do it. There's kind of a longer approach, which I use for design projects. And then there's a shorter kind of scripted route that I take for the Webflow business. The reason is because the design side, there's more complexity and timing has to be much more right for that. So for that, I'm just reaching out to the type of people that I think I could help, like founders in startups in the kind of industries I've worked in the past. So finance and health, things like that. And so there I would just have a conversation. Like, hey, how's it going? What are you working on at the moment? Nice to connect. I've worked in a similar industry, and just see where that conversation leads. And, it's just something to do in your spare time instead of scrolling through shite on Instagram. Keep these little conversations going on LinkedIn. And then on the other side, I've got the Webflow business, which is it's much more repeatable, much more like fixed project price. For them, I think the people that I'm reaching out to they either have this problem or they don't. It's like they need somebody to build the designs that they're designing for their clients, so they can increase their services and make some money on what we do. Um, or they're using somebody at the moment and it's a bad service, so they want to switch to us. Or, we just offer a better full package service and at a better price. And so it's much more of a logical decision to try us than somebody else. And so for that side of things, it's literally just connect with creative directors, lead designers, account managers, things like that at agencies, and just send them the same script, which is, do you know anyone? Essentially, it's, do you know anyone? Like, nice to connect. Do you know anyone that needs this type of service where we can build a website exactly how you design it in a few weeks at fixed prices, right? So it's just not, it softens it a little bit of like, do you want this? You just say, do you know anyone that's interested? So it's worked either way. Like, some people have just recommended me other people straight away, and others have said, yo, that's me. You could help me. And so, yeah, so I would try both. The second option is much more numbers focused. And yeah, you have to kind of live with the fact that maybe some people feel you're a bit spammy. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's what LinkedIn is. It's a way to reach people that work in certain industries. And a lot of other people, even if they don't want it, they still appreciate, like, oh, that's cool work. And I think people are getting spammed so much by recruiters on there that actually seeing something to do with design with a nicely designed website is quite refreshing. So yeah, so it's worked for me anyways. Yeah, the drawbacks are nothing's guaranteed. It is just a long haul plan. But I think now I'm connected to nearly 30,000 people just by doing this, like connecting with the right sort of people. And people actually get in touch like, oh, wow, we're connected to such. And I'm like, honestly, I don't know. I don't know this person. They're like asking for a warm intro. I'm like connected to so many random people on here that. So yeah, I guess it is a bit spammy, but it's just something that has always worked for me. So
How do you get
try that,
people
give that a
to,
try.
do you overcome a lack of trust because you don't sell 50 quid websites, right? Like it is a significant investment for somebody that you've just met, for somebody that you've worked with for 2-3 years. If a couple of years later you're like, hey, do you want to pay 20 grand for a website? They'll pay for it. They trust you. But what about the person that just met you online and you have no connection to? They don't know who you know at all. They've just read your message and now you're on a call. How do you get them to trust you and send you the cash?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. I think it's still about building trust. But because you don't know them, you haven't worked with them before, the best way is to show them the work that you have done and to show them that you understand their business and their needs. So like, if you're speaking to somebody and you talk about how you help other people like them overcome the same struggles. So in my case with the Webflow side, it's like, come on, like, have you worked with developers before? Yes. Yes, over all of our clients, we often find that, you know, there's a disconnect between what you design and what they build. And also there's a language barrier between the designers and the developers. Our team are all designers, so we understand you don't have that mismatch. And they're like, yeah, yeah. Like they're nodding along as I'm talking about this because they've experienced it as well. So I'm like, so for when we work with you, that doesn't happen. Also, we mitigate all of those risks in the beginning by reviewing your designs and making suggestions, because we know the web, because, you're designing these static screens, how it interacts and how it lives on something fluid like the web is fluent in that, and they're not into that. So it's just hitting all of those beats. You understand their struggles. You've solved it for other people in the past. Here's the examples of that. So I usually don't go through work on the call, but all of that is on the website. And then I also share like a Notion link with all of the stuff that we've done in the past that has every project that we've done and the price that the client paid and the timeline that it took, which nobody shares that. So you're coming at it like from just, you're adding more transparency to that conversation. And usually people are very awkward around price and nobody wants to speak first and things like, "So how much budget do you have? How much you got?" and that type of thing. So it's like, no, no, this is the stuff that we've done in the past. Here's the timelines, here's the price. You make your own mind up, but we're being fully transparent here. And I think on the call, it's about building that rapport and asking them lots of questions and about their process and struggles that they've had in the past. And then, working in how you've solved those things. Like anything, like any sort of sales, it's just understanding what their goal is, what is the ideal outcome for them. And so if you're speaking to an account manager at a design studio, it's that their clients, their client. If you're speaking to a founder, it's that the conversion's gonna go up and they're gonna impress their investors with these great numbers and a good investment in this, new web design or whatever. So yeah, I guess it's just trying to understand where they're coming from and what an ideal situation looks like for them, and then just show them how you can create it.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about continue talking about the Webflow business because I remember when kind of I started to come up with a few ideas and I spoke to other people who were in the early stages, and it was all about, man, that's a great idea that hasn't been done before. And back then it was like, I'm really onto something here because it hasn't been done before. Now, the minute someone's like, that hasn't done before, I'm like, why hasn't it been done before? And I think some advice I got around, or something I've realized going back is I would never start with a new idea. I'd take something where I could add my value and make it incredibly much more sellable. And I think what you've done with the Webflow agency is exactly that, right? It's like, it's something that people were already doing, but then you add your own flavor to it and suddenly it changes the entire value perception of it. So how did you think about that idea? I think MakeDo as a brand agency, a lot of people take that route, but with the Webflow stuff, it's very interesting because you've added value in a place where a lot of people just would often ignore the design side of things. They would just develop the websites.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny. I didn't have the answer to that question either, and I kind of had three sort of ideas of how MakeDo could work. And so I had kind of like traditional project-based agency. Then at the time when I was redoing the website and stuff, there was a lot of hype around design subscriptions and like 5K a month, 10K a month, 50 clients, and you start getting all excited about being a millionaire or something like that. But anyways, it's like my angle for that was unlimited design for good. So what we're talking about before about freedom, it was like only working with clients that have a good mission. They're going to have a positive impact in the world. But it's also a design subscription. It's like, you don't want to just do just a design subscription. It was like, so the difference there would be it's unlimited design for good. Okay. So there was that idea, traditional agency. And then the other one was just the Webflow. And the reason is previous to thinking about this, I'd done a few of these sort of projects anyways. Like people like, oh, I've already got a designer. The designs are done. Can you build it? And like, I've been building websites on Webflow since 2018. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I was like, oh, wow, like that was really painless. There was no back and forth about design changes and all of that. I was like, just build it. That was it. So like, God, yeah, like that could just be a repeat process. So anyways, I had those three ideas. And what I did, I just I set up a landing page for each of them. So exactly the same template, but just different copy and slightly different sections. Like one was a process, one was benefits, whatever, but largely the same. And then I sent out, it must have been 200 or 300 messages on LinkedIn, but each about the different idea. So I was messaging people about startups. I was messaging startups about the unlimited design for good. So like health tech startups, that type of thing. And I was just messaging any founder for the traditional agency. And then I was messaging like creative directors and studio founders for the Webflow thing. And I was just ran that experiment. I just for a month just sent the messages out. I had the different landing pages and I just seen what happened. Overwhelmingly, like got like 3 or 4 Webflow projects booked. And then like hardly even any replies to the other ones and lots of like confused replies. What do you even do? Why are you messaging me that type of thing for the subscription one and stuff? Because it's kind of like a few different ideas mixed in there, you know? Anyway, so the Webflow stuff just won out of that experiment. And then I just doubled down from there, you know? I was like, oh, well, what else can I do to improve this? And then I started bringing other people into it that could help with the builds. We could do like several builds at once. So I just started doing that because this is all while I had a full-time job when I was doing this experimentation. Yeah, there's kind of a gap in the story there. Moved to Barcelona, was doing the freelance for 2 years. And then the last client I had in there was a health tech startup in London called Habitual. And then it was a great team, great mission, and I was going to be the head of design, so had full control over the brand, the website, the app. So I had all of that freedom that I was looking for, and it was for a good cause, and so ticked all the boxes, and it was a decent salary, But then like 3 years into that, that's I had my second daughter. My priority switched again to like, okay, I need to build a future for these girls. What are my options? So that's why I was like, on the side, I'm going to run either a traditional agency, subscription, or the Webflow. And then Webflow 1, did that on the side, went really well. After a year of doing it, I ended up getting made redundant. So like, so glad that I did set something up, in parallel to my job because I still had an income, 'cause I think everyone had a tough, tough last year, couple of years, Anyway, so yeah, that happened, and then now I'm kind of running both. So I've got the Webflow Studio, which is continuing to get referrals and different projects happening. And right now we've got three Webflow sites on the go at the minute. The traditional studio side, nothing's a subscription now. Traditional studio side, we just finished a big project and just about to start another one, and lots of proposals out there. So now it's just I've replaced that full-time job with now brand identity and web design projects. The cool thing is though, now we've got that development house like in-house, so it's like all of the brand identity and website work just goes straight into that a build process.
How big is the team for the brand stuff and the Webflow stuff?
So for everything, it's just me officially as the business. But in terms, so it's structured as we have a pool of contractors who are specialists in brand identity, in web design, in Webflow development. We're even branching out now into some Shopify builds and things like that, but I want to keep it largely Webflow. But I think in total there's about 10 of us. And then it's, when a proposal comes in, I just earmark, okay, I think this person would be great for this project. Let's check their availability. And so so that's kind of how it's working. It's just slowly growing. And I think, there's a lot I can do to improve the business itself, improving the inbound leads, improving the sales technique rather than just messaging people on LinkedIn. I think that's kind of reached its limit. We're still going to do it, but I want to experiment with new ways to market the business and to get in touch and to grow the roadmap. But yeah, that's kind of where we are now.
Nice.
It's always been quite scrappy. So yeah, I would say as advice, it's just to try things out, experiment. If that idea that I had was like, it could be one of these three things. What should I do? I don't know. It didn't take that long. It took like 2 days to put together the landing pages. And then I just consistently messaged people each week, reaching out on LinkedIn for a month. There's a bit of discipline involved. But then by the end of it, I knew which one had the most traction, and went from there, So if you're not sure, what would be a good way to test and figure out your next step?
And for anyone listening, wondering what kind of revenue you can expect to make I think in the brand and website stuff, it can be all over the place. But with the Webflow development, what kind of revenue could people expect in that kind of space?
Yeah, so the first year we did 108,000. And then we're on the second year now, and we've already hit 100K. And when did we start? Yeah, so we're 7 months in and already hit the revenue that we did in the in the first year. So we're definitely
And that's
gonna.
solely from the Webflow stuff you said, right? Or is it from both?
Yeah, so it's actually from both. Yeah, that the way that we manage it, or at least the finances and stuff, it's a Notion table and it's all mixed in. But that's a good idea actually. I should be able to like tag. I do this tag Webflow versus just to know what the split is.
It'd be interesting, yeah.
Um,
I'm assuming given the speed that it takes to do brand and website compared to Webflow, it's quicker to churn that stuff out, but I guess it depends on a lot of things, right?
no, 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 the
No?
other way.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, the other. Yeah, yeah. Like a brand identity and web design project typically takes like 4 to 6 weeks, and then the build itself will take 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, so as in, so what I was saying is the brand and website takes longer, so you might get less in a year.
Oh,
Then
right.
the Webflow development you'll get
Right,
more, so
right.
it's quicker to churn them out, right? The Webflow dev stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 100%. Yeah, sorry, I misunderstood.
All good, all good. So finally, I wanted to ask you, going back to looking at those three ideas, design subscription, Webflow dev, is there anything you would have done differently if you could go back to knowing what you know now, if you could go back to that moment, anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, what I do differently. Yeah, maybe I would try another experiment just to be sure, because I think like just the communication methods suited that option better. So I think there's kind of a bias to I get I said there's two now. I use two different approaches on LinkedIn. One is slowly warm up a lead through conversation, and then there's an ask somewhere within 2 weeks of speaking to someone versus just send them a script. And so for every like what I know now is that it wasn't really a fair test, if you know what I mean. I think there's probably a good opportunity out there for traditional project based or unlimited. So yeah, now that I've done it longer, I realize that that experiment itself just suited the suited the Webflow stuff better, but it solved the problem at the time. It got me started. So it was like I had no clients anyways, so it was just something to do as well while there was nothing on. So I would just say that just to keep busy. So even if you don't have any projects on, don't wallow in it. Just keep the wheels moving,
Yeah,
keep yourself in action.
the answers
And
aren't
yeah,
in
and
your head, right?
what's
The
happened?
answers.
Yeah, and it's actually ended up it's all free really because now I'm doing the traditional stuff, and some clients want like a subscription based on what they need, like social media posts or keeping the website updated or whatever, like a care package subscription plus the Webflow stuff. So it's actually ended up all free now that I've got more time because I'm not doing it in my spare time. So yeah, so experiment, keep yourself in motion.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I used to be somebody that experimented on my Notion doc and on notebooks, which is a waste of time because you have no idea until you test it. And I remember speaking to you a couple of years ago and pushing me to experiment, which is the only way to find answers, really. So the last question is, where do you see opportunity for product designers in particular who want to start their own business? This is changing literally by the day, given all these AI tools coming out. But yeah, you're working full time. You're specifically a product designer. Where are you looking? What excites you? What are you seeing right now that's catching your eye?
Yeah, I think there's a tendency to look at the trends and be like, oh fuck, we need to do something in AI quickly. But I think honestly, like look within yourself. So what are your interests? What makes you tick? And then honestly, like if you're already working as a product designer, then I would say just build your own product. Like the cost of entry now, you don't need a huge team. You don't need to raise venture capital. If you just, whatever your interest is, like if you're interested in cycling and hip hop, maybe there's an idea that you could make a product for people that like cycling and hip hop that is just for you. So it's like you can customize hip hop stickers for your bike or whatever, or like hip hop products for bikes or something like that. And like you don't need to have any of the products. You can just like mock the things up if it's a physical product, or if it's an app, you can just mock it all up and just whack together a website and start testing it and put it out there for people. And yeah, find other people like you that have the same interests and use your superpowers, which is your design skills, to do something that you're really passionate about. So it could be something that you're already doing. Like I know really into music and making videos and things, right? So, and food. So it's like those things that you're already doing in your spare time. I mean, we spoke about this before as well, right? It's like you don't want to
Yeah.
ruin your passion. So there's a balance and you got to make that decision. But I would say that, or another thing you could look at and not your passions is the things that piss you off. So your daily frustrations, the things that you get annoyed about. Look at those, the things that, if you have to do something repeatedly every week, is there a way just to automate that and then like help other people automate that? Or, what are the daily issues that you have that you've hacked together some fix for yourself? Maybe that's useful to other people. But for 100% for sure, it would be to build your own thing. Like for me, I built a design calendar, like I say, in a weekend, just out of my frustration that it didn't exist. It was like every website had an events page and you had to go to every website and look at it and say, no, just put it all in one. Okay, now I can relax. That's turned into so much more over the years and lots of friends being made and connections and opportunities had through following that thread, and that was something that pissed me off. I was like, is there not one place with all this stuff? I think it's getting harder and harder, because more and more people have like solved these little issues and things, but there's always something specific. And I think that's why it's best to look within, because you're just so unique. Your unique interests and annoyances and a viewpoint of the world, you're one of one. So start there, and then I'm sure there's other people kind of like you, not exactly like you, but kind of like you that you can connect with. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
It makes you very hard to compete if you play that game, the game of one-on-one. And I remember talking to you about build it in a weekend, and it stands true. You're gonna take as long as you give yourself. Just give yourself Saturday and Sunday. So this was amazing, Anton. Thanks so much. Where can people follow your journey, where you're at, your thoughts?
Yeah, so yeah, you can check out our website, www.makedo.design. Find me on LinkedIn, Anton Wade. Yeah, that's kind of it. My social presence I'm working on.
Influencer
Nothing really that
status.
interesting going on. Yeah, nothing that interesting going on yet. But yeah, just reach out to me on LinkedIn, and yeah, happy to help if you've got an idea you want to make happen.
Amazing. Amazing, Anton. Amazing podcast. And thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, man. Thanks for putting it together, and I'll catch you on our next call.